Hello, Blunt Truth, and this is the steel video that you guys want me to do. Remember, you asked for it. I got lots of PMs and comment requests to do it, so I redid it from the original one because when I looked at the original one, it sounded like a chemistry lesson in steel, and I don't think that's what you guys want from me. I think you want me to be more practical about it and tell you point blank what companies make what steels well and which ones suck and what steels I like for what type of knives. Plain and simple. Not get into all the analysis of how steel's made and all that. Maybe some video in the future I can do that. But now let's talk about specific companies, steels, types of knives and types of steels for those types of knives. You know, most of you know there's steels called carbon steels, and you know they rust, and they're usually coated because they rust. Some stainless steels are coated for reasons, other reasons. All steels will rust. Stainless steels rust. Carbon steels have properties that stainless steels don't, mainly toughness. The Rockwell scale is overrated and overused by manufacturers and knife sellers to kind of sucker you into liking their knives, I think. It's an important factor. Hardness is definitely important, but it's not the last word in the quality of a blade, and sometimes it can be too hard for your use, for what you want that knife for. And it's not always accurate. When you see those ranges of 58 to 60, that's like something out of a textbook. It's not what that manufacturer heat treats that particular steel to. It's just something, you'll see the same range, like 57 to 58 for AUS 8 on every knife that's AUS 8, and there's major differences between some AUS 8s and others. Much more than a 2 or 3 point range. So, you know, take those ratings with a grain of salt. And a hard knife isn't always a better knife, and a harder knife doesn't always hold an edge better. It doesn't even equal edge retention, as we saw in the Falk-Niven U2. And I think it's because, in my research, I've found that a lot of it has to do with the grain of the steel not staying together at the edge. The grain, when you push it into hard material or any material that causes major resistance, the grains, if you can picture this like grains, will break apart and cause the edge to flatten out on a microscopic level and dull. Even though the steel is hard, it still won't hold an edge on some steels. And if a steel is real hard and you use it for hard material, you're going to chip the edge. And chips are a nightmare to get out. It sucks. Nobody likes getting a chip in their blade. It's a nightmare to get rid of that chip. You have to take off a lot of metal. So on large knives, you want strength. You want to go with a carbon steel, and most people generally accept that. Don't go with a Sam Mai laminate steel like the big Trailmaster Sam Mai from Cold Steel. Don't go with some of the Falk-Niven and the Falk-Niven. I pronounced it wrong again. They make VG10 survival knives. Don't go with that. They're going to chip out. You can watch countless videos of guys on the internet taking them into the woods. NOS, nothing fancy. There's many videos of them taking stainless survival knives in the woods, and then they show you all the chips in their edge. And it's happened to me. This thing's full of chips. This SOG Seal Knife 2000, junk, because they made it of stainless. I didn't know better when I bought it years and years ago, but it chipped out on me many times as a big, not a chip, I shouldn't say chip, because it's such soft steel it doesn't chip. But it flattens out and deforms, and the edge rolls over and gets all kinds of huge imperfections that basically it might as well be a chip because you got to grind a lot of metal off to get rid of it. So, but even quality steel, then it'll chip instead of flattening out. Quality stainless. Go with carbon. Carbon or semi-stainless. Semi-stainless is like D2, for example, but I'll get into that. Lately, I like very well heat-treated 1095. This is an Ontario heat-treated 1095. Rat Cutlery from Rowan. Rowan does heat treating for Rat Cutlery and Tops knives, and they're excellent. They have excellent heat treating. And they heat treat 1095 for Tops and Rat Cutlery. And those both hold an edge excellent. Very good edge retention. Not as good as like S30V or VG10 or 154 or many other steels stainless, but you're getting the toughness too. It isn't going to break on you. It isn't going to flatten the edge out or chip it out or break the blade, smashing it into a stump or a knot, or bend, you know, ripping it out of a log. Or you need toughness in a knife like this. When you get down to a little bit smaller knife, you can go with a semi-stainless like D2. It's harder. It can possibly break easier. You don't need quite as much toughness, but you still don't want to go with all stainless. You need a little bit of that carbon in there to give it the toughness. You know, D2 has carbon and chromium. In order to make a knife stainless, they have to lower the carbon, because carbon causes the iron, which most of your steel is iron. And they add the carbon to give it strength and rigidity. They have to lower that down and add massive amounts of chromium in order to make it stainless. When they add the chromium, it takes away, because they lowered the carbon, it takes away a lot of the edge retention. So they'll usually add other things, like vanadium is a common one. Vanadium is the V in S30V, it's 3% vanadium. S90V 9%, and so on. There's other things that they add in all different concoctions to try to get it to make up basically for the carbon that's missing, to get the blades strong and have good edge retention. But stainless blades are never as strong as carbon tool steels. Here's a little list of common carbon steels. Get this out of the way. The 1045 is commonly used in things like chisels, axes, machetes, things like that. Not so much machetes, but thicker, harder tools. 1095 is the most common steel in your survival knives and you know, basically any big knife. And you will use 1095. That's the one I have most experience with, just because most companies, that's what they're making their knives out of, the survival knives. And it works well when it's properly heat treated. These two are basically spring steels, people call them, and those work well. They're fine. They're common in kukuris and machetes and things like that. Then there's other carbon steels. But basically that's all I want to show you there. So that's it. I like well heat treated 1095 in my big survival knife type knives. Don't get stainless. In my opinion, stainless sucks. I have this, I have the Trailmaster in stainless, and it sucks. It chips out, it deforms, you get flat spots, it ruins your knife, it'll piss you off. Go with a good carbon. They're a little softer, you have to sharpen them a little more often, but you're not going to have a hard time sharpening them. You're not going to ruin your edge beating on it. You're not going to break your knife. You're not going to, you know, it'll hold up for you. Downside, it rusts a little. So just oil it. These have oil in them. You can probably see it in the light. They're oiled. I just keep a little coating of oil on it, and I've used this quite a bit, not a whole lot, because I don't like carrying this much weight with me when I hike. But when I'll go camping with the kids or something, this will come along for firewood processing. And it does very, very well at that, as you see in many videos by many guys. Awesome woodworking knife, wood chopping, wood processing knife. And just oil it up. You know, this coating holds oil, so you just cover it with oil. I got no rust on this thing, just because I keep it oiled. I've had it for a long time, a couple years. Alright, so that's the big survival knives. Part 2, we're going to go into stainless folders and semi-stainless knives. And I'll give you my list of my preferences in stainless, and ones that are generally accepted as great stainless steels, and I think they tend to suck, mostly because the edges chip too easily. That's the most common reason in my experience. I'll also tell you which companies have, in my opinion, the best heat treating, and which companies suck at heat treating, and which companies to avoid completely. Okay, so watch part 2. Thank you.